Good morning, Pomfret. Your first chapel speaker of the day played on ESPN in the Little League World Series. Your second chapel speaker has an above average amount of arms. Your third chapel speaker can play the ukulele. And your fourth chapel speaker dreams of becoming an author. Your chapel speakers of the day are Colin Baker, Gabe Lewis, Keegan Palmer, and Cami Steiger. Enjoy.
Hello, Pomfret. My name is Colin Baker, and I'm a first-year senior here on the Hilltop. If I'm being honest, basketball was the only reason I came to Pomfret. I figured I could endure 9 more months of high school if I had to. I was going, playing ball, and getting out to play in college. All of my friends from home were packing up and heading off to start their lives in college. I was jealous. They were moving on, and I was stuck at home getting ready for senior year 2.0. Before junior year, I knew nothing about boarding schools. I assumed they were either like Hogwarts or military schools for troubled kids. The idea of a postgraduate year was first mentioned to me by my doctor. I had suffered a bad sports injury. I won't bore you to death about it, but he suggested that if I wanted to play ball in college, I should entertain the idea of doing a postgraduate year. When I got home from the doctor's appointment, I Googled prep school basketball. I didn't care where the school was located, what classes they offered, or what kids were going to be there. I just wanted to hoop. I did some research and found a handful of schools that I thought had good basketball programs. I emailed coaches a short highlight video of my sophomore year because I was injured junior and the majority of my senior year. I crossed my fingers and hoped someone would reply. I heard back from a handful of coaches and took my visits across New England looking for a program that could help me achieve my goal. The only reason I chose Pomfret was Coach Tosti. I thought he would be the best coach to help develop me as a player and get me to the next level. The first day I arrived on the Hilltop, I was anxious. I had convinced myself that I just had to keep my head down and focus on the upcoming season. Making new friends was not a priority. Coming in as a postgraduate, I figured that everyone at school would already know each other, and they would have their own friends, and I would end up feeling left out. Before Pomfret, I attended a large public school that had 2,500 kids. There were people in my grade that I didn't know at all. It was easy to get lost in a crowd, and frankly, at the time, I preferred it that way. Teachers and faculty barely remember some students. So when I came to Pomfret, it was a complete culture shock. As I was moving in, I noticed that everyone was friendly and outgoing. People were going out of their way to introduce themselves, and I quickly clicked with many of my peers. Within days, I truly felt like a member of the Pomfret community. Some of my fondest memories were playing practical jokes on each other, rap battles, catching dubs in Fortnite, playing football, and post-game interviews. Countless memories were made in those first months, and the idea that I wouldn't be able to make more memories until March was incredibly disappointing. Having a basketball season with this amazing group of guys I'd been bonding and practicing with was what I had been looking forward to the most, and it was gone in the blink of an eye. More surprisingly, I realized that what I was also upset about was the inability to have more time with friends that I've made. I will be eternally grateful for my newfound friendships and memories that I've made, and I can't wait to get back to make more in the spring. I came to Pomfret to play basketball, but I'm going to leave Pomfret with so much more. This place has changed me as a person. For that, I have to thank Coach Tosti for not only being my coach, but a mentor and someone who pushes me to be better both on and off the court. I'd also like to thank Coach Gilmore for always working with me in the gym and helping me reach my full potential. Mr. Goethals, you are a wonderful advisor who made my transition into Pomfret easy. I need to thank my teachers who have shown me what a true education is supposed to look like. I've never had such a hands-on educational experience in any of my previous years of schooling. To the friends I've made here, thank you for making my experience at Pomfret one I'll never forget. My teammates, you always have my back, and I will always have yours, and I'm so proud to be a part of this team. I wish we could have shown everyone who runs Class B. Finally, I want to thank all of the Pomfret community who welcomed me with open arms. I began this journey hoping to just breeze through 9 months, and it will end wishing I could stay longer. Shout out the Bricks channel. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
I'm Lord Gabriel Montgomery Lewis, and I'm a 2-year senior on the Hilltop. Well, here it is. It's time for my chapel talk. I've spent a while thinking about what exactly to talk about. And, today I'm going to be talking about the video game Dark Souls. Yeah, I know. But I actually have a meaningful message here, so I'd prefer if you didn't completely tune out. For those of you who are unaware, Dark Souls has a reputation for being very, very difficult. The completion rate for people who start the game and make it to the Firelink Shrine is 36%, which is abysmally low. Now, I picked up Dark Souls last spring during the initial lockdown. I'd always heard amazing things about the game from people who had completed it, and I was fortunate enough not to have the game spoiled to me. So, I started playing and was immediately hooked. Dark Souls isn't hard because of any challenging puzzles, riddles, or anything like that. It's difficult because in its setting, it's very realistic. To put it lightly and without spoilers, you're an undead human, your goal is to reclaim the soul of a guardian who has gone astray. However, you're only human, after all. Struggling to persevere in a world full of monsters, dragons, demons, and all sorts of incredibly powerful creatures like straight-up gods and eldritch beings. You are truly insignificant to them, and they can easily squash you. However, you can still outclass them in 2 ways. You can persevere and improve yourself, and you can analyze. You're going to fail a lot in Dark Souls. It's much like life in that way, and much like life, you must learn from your failure so that in the future you can persevere. In Dark Souls, it's important you analyze your challenges, like bosses' attacks and movement patterns, so you can dodge them and not get killed. As dodging their attacks and attacking them while they're winding up from an attack or recovering from an attack is critical to actually defeating them. It is important you don't get greedy with your damage, as if you keep hitting them until the last second, you'll be right up next to them when they start attacking. Patience is key. If you take it slow and slowly chisel down their health bit by bit, you'll make it through. Says the guy who can kill the final boss in 7 hits. As cheesy or lame or dumb as it sounds, I probably wouldn't be the man today if I hadn't picked up Dark Souls. Not only did it teach me how to persevere by facing every problem with a quiet determination, it helped me get through the trials and tribulations of the initial lockdown, and the uncertainty that was constantly swimming through my head at the time. If I learned 3 things from Dark Souls, it's that tag team fights are awful, please stop doing them. Goodness, Gothic architecture is gorgeous, and no matter the obstacle, no matter the challenge, and no matter how insurmountable the odds seem, if you persevere and learn from your mistakes, you can overcome those obstacles and improve yourself to the point of reaching your goal. Or just find a really big sword and give it a lightning aspect and smack all your problems away. Don't actually do that. I would like to give a special thank you to Andre Bichert, my friends Robbie Leslie for putting up with me, and Brian Lee for actually getting me into world building. My cat Socks, who is no longer afraid. My parents, biological and step, for supporting me throughout my ups and downs and for yelling at me to clean my room, even when it's immaculate. Mr. Lake for being an amazing observatory warden and allowing me to use it to take all sorts of beautiful pictures and answering any stupid questions I have. And lastly, Mr. Segezdi, who isn't here unfortunately, but helped me understand my great love for robotics. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Keegan Palmer, and I'm a postgraduate student here at Pomfret. Born in Chicago, raised in Baltimore, and now living in northeastern Massachusetts, my life has been a bit hectic and unpredictable. Sure, I could talk about how lacrosse has gotten me to where I am today, but being honest, it's not a very exciting story, so I'm going to take a different approach. So many things have happened in my short life, and with each new experience, I really learned more about myself. And from an early age, I was attracted to the great outdoors. My mom's a horticulturalist, which helped me foster my interest for nature and the environment. She and I used to help at the Baltimore City Hall garden, where she designed a garden they planted with vegetables to feed the homeless. And at the time, it was not my favorite thing, but looking back at it, I'm very glad I helped her. It taught me to not be afraid to get my hands dirty, especially if I'm trying something new. And it also made me a total nerd for nature. And to me, my childhood in Baltimore was perfect until 4th grade, when we moved to Massachusetts for my father's job. So right as I was really beginning to get an idea of what life is like and who I was, I had to start over. I lost all my friends, and I was transitioning from private to public school. I've always been more of an introvert who really only feels comfortable around people once they get to know them, so being in a new school was not working out at all. And it may not sound like much at 18, but as a 10-year-old, it was really stressful. So much so that I spent every morning before school with my school counselor. And I learned sometimes the best thing to do is step back and just slow down. Take time to observe the world around you and really just give your body the time to breathe and focus on what's going on. I needed to focus on the here and the now. And I use this tactic still to this day, in school, during games, and when I'm generally feeling down. Looking back, this helped me grow as a person. It helped me deal with tragedy, loss, and the upending of all our lives on a global scale. And now, I think we can all agree that the worst year of our lives so far was 2019, right? No? Well, I know most of you would probably say that 2020 was far worse, and I can agree that 2020 was horrible, but for me, 2019 really was the worst. And it started out like any other year. I was a junior heading into my senior year. My lacrosse career was starting to take off, and summer 2019 was looking like it was going to be one that I would never forget. And boy, was that the truth. On June 7th, I was at my close friend Ryan Driscoll's house after a big win in the state lacrosse quarterfinals. And I was with my group of friends. We did everything together. We were a mix of lacrosse and hockey players, and that night we had a sleepover. And the next morning, we had lacrosse practice, and it dragged on forever because I was running on empty from no sleep. And after practice, I said goodbye to my friends and headed home for a nap. Later that afternoon, while grocery shopping with my family, I got a text. Ryan, my friend whose house I was at the night before, was in a car crash. And at the time, I didn't think much of it. I was praying he was all right, but to be totally honest, I was not really worried. 2 hours later, I got a text that made my heart stop. A text no one ever wants to get. Ryan had died. I will never forget June 8th, 2019, and at first, I refused to believe what was happening. I thought my friends were playing a cruel joke. It just couldn't be true. And when his family confirmed it, I felt my entire body freeze. I didn't know what to do. I went downstairs and told my family, and I'll never forget the look on their faces. I couldn't cry. I couldn't breathe. This was not supposed to happen. My friend was gone. And I felt sick. But as awful as I felt, I couldn't imagine what his family was feeling. I was so angry. I couldn't remember if I said goodbye when I saw him after practice. I didn't know what I'd do without seeing him again. How was I ever going to get over this? I was a total mess. Well, I know it sounds crazy, but I'm really thankful for that experience and what's happened after. Now I have 3 families. I have my family, the Driscoll family, and my friend group. Without them, I would not have gotten through it. I would not be at Pomfret today, and I would not be going to college next year. Having all of us come together to support each other made it much easier to continue. And family. The concept of an extended family and the strength that comes from that support really came into play. I realized how lucky we were to have each other. And then at the end of the day, I would do anything for any one of them. And Ryan will forever be in my heart, and I will never forget him. Every day, I wear a beaded anklet with the initials RD on it, keeping him close to me at all times. And it is really important to take time to mourn and let your emotions out. But that can't last forever. You just gotta keep swimming. Keep moving forward. And since his death, I've done everything for Ryan, and I try not to disappoint him. I got my driver's license, committed to university for lacrosse, got accepted for my postgraduate year, graduated from high school, got accepted into college, and started my Pomfret journey. And I don't think I could have done any of it without knowing Ryan was up there keeping an eye on me. And I've learned that from each hard, painful event, in the end, it has made me stronger. And as long as I take time to mourn, remember the good times, and don't let my emotions consume me, I know that there are people out there that I can trust and that care, and I can accomplish anything. And with all my life experiences, I can say without hesitation today that I'm a better person of myself. I stand here before you, looking forward to a career in environmental science, and I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty and try new things. I know the most important thing is just be myself. And I'm excited about the future. I wouldn't have any of this without my family, friends, failures, tragedy, and the lessons I've learned in life. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cami Steiger, and I'm a first-year senior on the Hilltop. When I was 12 years old, I left my family to live with my aunt and cousins in another small Connecticut town 40 minutes away. It was supposed to be just for the summer. A local boarding school had a 4-week summer school program that I had gotten a scholarship for. It was terrifying and exciting all at once. I was stepping out from the only place I had known for the past 7 years. Following the 4-week summer session, I was offered admission to the school as a year-round student. I entered the 7th grade as a financial aid kid and honorary faculty brat thanks to my aunt's employment at the school. I was some vague version of a legacy student. My older cousin had graduated the year before as a bright, shining example of the quintessential rectory scholar, while my other cousin was entering alongside me as the youngest player on the varsity soccer team. In comparison, I was an awkward, nerdy bookworm with a bad haircut and thrifted clothes. I didn't quite know where I fit in with my peers. I wasn't a class clown or an athlete or particularly interesting. I was just me. It seemed there was an unspoken current of pressure, as if some ghostly headmaster was glaring down, telling us all to measure up, or else. And, although I was excelling academically to an extent I never had before, there was a tickle in the back of my brain. I was not measuring up. One of my first connections of that year was with my English teacher, who most likely saw me floundering and decided to take an odd duckling under her wing. And, let me assure you, I was odd. I didn't like to sit in chairs. I preferred to sit on the floor, or the desk, or the windowsill if given a chance. I preferred reading to social interaction, and every so often I would get locked in a closet when I annoyed an upperclassman just a bit too much. It didn't take long for me to be diagnosed with severe social and generalized anxiety, and then severe depression just a few months later. Something that I remember most from that time was the isolation. I wanted so badly to connect with my peers. I felt as if I was trapped in a telephone booth. I could see the world going on without me, but nobody could hear a thing that I said. I distanced myself from the few friends that I did make with little to no explanation because I felt that I didn't deserve it. I sat alone whenever possible, usually engrossed in some strange fantasy world. I decided that I was better off not letting anyone in, lest they noticed how badly I was struggling. But someone did notice. That English teacher that I loved and admired so much, she noticed, and she offered me a beautiful, life-changing way out. A stack of leather-bound journals sits on a shelf in my bedroom, nestled between copies of Harry Potter and soft-cover novels thrifted from library overstock sales. There are 9 or so in total, of various sizes, colors, and quality, but they do all have one thing in common. These notebooks are the lifeblood of my experience and chronicle nearly every thought I've had in the past 5.5 years. It turns out that my antidote to isolation is expression. Writing became an escape from the paralyzing perfectionism that I sought in social interactions. My journals were a place where I could be messy and complicated and crazy and have nobody care but myself. When real life became too much to bear, I constructed elaborate fictionalities, spanning from lighthouses to castles, from gripping adventures to dramatic stands against evil. As I struggled with my sexuality, I created romances that resonated with me. I was the hero, the love interest. I was the center of the room. In my writing, I became somebody, and eventually that confidence spilled over into real life. Somehow, I became my own heroine. It's been several years now since the last time I spoke to the English teacher who introduced me to my journals in the first place. Occasionally, I see her on campus, since my brother now attends that same school. I can only hope that someday he finds his passion as I found mine, with another incredible educator to guide him. As for me, my dream has only clarified. I've decided to be an author, to make sure that the next generation of lonely and awkward teenagers understand that they aren't alone. I want to write characters that they can see themselves in, and stories that inspire them to start writing their own. Most of all, I want to make sure that those teenagers realize, just as I did, that they can become their own heroes. After all, I found that we are all the protagonists of our own stories.